So when I was a teenager, I had initial aspirations to become a designer, but when I realized after interning for a designer how hard it was, I kind of shelved that fantasy. So photography kind of happened by accident, and it was kind of a gateway into the industry. So for 12 years, I kind of went along with that path, and then just by chance, the opportunity came, and I kind of thought, maybe after 12 years of being a photographer, it makes sense to transition into something else that I wanted to do in the industry. So that's kind of how it happened. Well, I just figured after, photographing people for so long and watching how people dress, that was the greatest demographic research that I could have. So it made sense that I apply it towards designing, because that's something I've always wanted to do. And I felt that DeVoe was the right fit for me, and the resources were good, and it was also in New York and just a little bit more local for me. But I just felt that the team and I had a connection together, so it just felt like it was the right fit. I think more than ever now, you look at different aspects of the industry, whether it's beauty or fashion, and I think I don't think it's a fad. I think it's definitely a moment now where people are realizing that inclusivity and diversity is very crucial, because in a time of social media, you have to be very reflective of who your consumer is and the people buying the product and who's representing. So this idea of a fantasy is no longer, it's not as relevant, and I think we feel more inspired when we connect to people. So I think that's why, for me, it came so organically just to cast people that I felt were more inspiring and that carried the clothes in a more day-to-day kind of life. So my work as a photographer, it's definitely given me an experience that some designers don't always get to have, which is see the end result, seeing how clothes react to the body and what makes sense to certain people and what people are yearning in their life, or what makes sense in terms of whether you're a mother and you have to run to drop your kids off to school, and then you have to go to a business meeting, and then you have to go run home and prepare dinner. So it's that idea of clothes being very life-proof that I've kind of picked up on from being a photographer and listening and watching and observing people. So that's kind of why that experience has definitely played a huge part, and I think that was very valuable to the members of the DeVoe team that I had that experience, because I wasn't coming from a technical design background. I was coming from the background of having life as everyone has life as experience, but I think being in the trenches kind of really played a huge role into coming to this position. Okay, calm down. Oh, okay, you want screen time, okay. I guess the similarities with photography and designing is you're just constantly observing, and well, stay. The similarities between photography and designing, I think, are about the connection between people and understanding what makes sense in their lives. Obviously, as a photographer, you are more observant and you're documenting things, whereas being a designer, you're putting things out into the world. So they definitely do go hand in hand, but they are similar in the way that you're trying to put your finger out there and get a grasp of what people are wanting in this world. And the difference is that one is a bit more, you put your images out in the world and that's about it, whereas designing, you're constantly thinking, does this make sense in terms of this fabrication or this proportion? And it's more of a psychoanalysis. And then I think photography is just more of an image rather than, an actual product. So. what I draw inspiration from in terms of my heritage and my family is, if anything, it's hard work and persistence, because I definitely know that my parents sacrificed a lot and worked very hard for me to have the life that I have. And you know, like, if I was from another generation, I don't think my parents would have been so open-minded about the idea of me working in fashion, because, you know, I think Asian immigrant parents want the best for their children. But I think knowing how hard they work definitely makes me feel like I've always wanted to work hard for their own happiness, and obviously for mine. But I don't think there's ever been any creative influences. It's just work ethic and just being very kind and humble, right? So having the platform that I have, I'm very grateful for the audience that I have, but I tend to be a bit more passive with my my voice. I feel like when I do have the opportunity to use my voice, I do use it when I feel very strongly about something. But I think rather than being, I mean, I just think in this political landscape, I think with Asian representation, it's a fight that still needs to be fought. But I think we've gone over a hurdle to the point where, you know, it's not like we have to march for it anymore. I think there are people that are fighting, which is nice. But I think the work has been done, and I think there are other battles that need to be done. But like, for instance, there was a time, maybe a few years ago, when I felt, you know, within street photography, I felt like these other photographers were being very dismissive of these other Japanese photographers. And, you know, I felt that was very, I just didn't think it was fair, because they had been there for so long and they worked very hard. So, you know, just even a simple Instagram post, which you don't realize can really send a message out there, because not everyone listens to everyone, and obviously because I'm in a certain place that I am, that people do listen. So I think it's smart to always use your platform when the time is needed. And in my case, I do it when I feel right. But yeah, I guess it is bad that I'm not as vocal as others, but I think it's just making change within your own community, which is what I do sometimes within, even if it's just within my own family or my own circle of friends. I think it's important to change their point of view. I guess so. I don't know, I'm not a very political person, because I just feel like you don't really think of things being, is this going to make a difference? You just do it because you know it's right. You know, like the choices that you make and the decisions. We like with our casting, we don't think, oh, we should cast, you know, this many people of color, or it just makes sense to us that that's reflective of the world, that, you know, the people that we cast, this is who we see, you know. Stop shopping and save your money, because I mean, as great as it is to earn money, you know, like, I think it's always wise to step back and realize that there's always going to be another thing that you can spend your money on. But what's more important is being with your friends and family and not focusing on materialistic things. That's what I would say to my younger self. If I could photograph anyone in the past, I'd probably say Lee Bowery, which would be really fun. And in terms of who I could design for, I don't know, maybe like Jane Birkin, but she's still alive, so that's fine. It might happen, I don't know, we'll see. When it comes to choosing my subjects, I think I don't intentionally choose anyone. It's more from a gut instinct, and I learned this from the very beginning, is to not overanalyze the people that you want to photograph, because, you know, there's always going to be some kind of quality that you didn't see from that first from that first glance of judgment. So I just think really just be open-minded, and just, if you feel like a unspoken connection towards someone, You just take the picture, and if it's truly love at first sight, then you kind of continue this relationship where you chase them down anytime you see them, you know, at a show or wherever. I secretly really love Hello Kitty. Well, I don't know it's much of a secret, but I mean, I excessively love ridiculous things like Hello Kitty or cartoons or overly animated things. I describe myself in 2 words would be quiet and animated.